Hey, how you guys doing? It's producer from Brothers Comics. Welcome to the Who Day Over 40 podcast for a long time, long suffering Cincinnati Bengals fan. Who Day, everybody. Yo, it's the morning before rounds 4 through 7. Gonna take a look back at rounds 2 and 3 for the Bengals from last night. As the Bengals have, I think, 6 picks today, made 3 picks yesterday in rounds 2 and 3. It's going to go over those picks and see how they fit in with the Bengals moving forward. Round two starts off with a bunch of trades, like just pick after pick after pick of teams starting to move up to get into position to take the player that they want. If you've been a long time follower of this team, you know the Bengals don't trade up. They value their picks. They're not going to give away a pick to get another pick. It's very rare that they do it. They did do it a couple years ago to get Cam Taylor-Britt, but just as a general rule, they like the players to fall to them and then have a backup plan for that. So once round two starts and you start to see some of the players that come off the board that the Bengals might have had an interest in, the first one being Tavondre Sweat winds up going to Tennessee, which I mean, a lot of people definitely was not thinking that was going to happen so early based on the Dewey that he got a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, they take him as a defensive tackle off the board. There was a lot of thought that the Bengals were going to look at a wide receiver in round two, but that didn't happen. Some of the cornerbacks that they had an interest in was like Max Melton goes off the board. I mean, there were some players on the board here. So I'll go to the share screen. That the Bengals had a real interest in, but they were just not really in the interest of trying to do that at all, the Bengals. And so you have to wonder, like, man, you know what? If y'all are looking for a player that you really want, y'all need to go up and get it. And that's just like the toughest part about the Bengals or being a Bengals fan is that they just flat out have certain things that they won't do. And this is one of those things. So if you start to look at the share screen again, if you're on YouTube, you can start to see some of the players that the Bengals, had an interest in to start to come off the board. They knew McConkey wasn't going to fall to them. They had an interest in Keon Coleman, maybe fake interest, but they did have some of that. There's a lot of mocks that Ruko Rororo had gone to the Bengals. I know I had picked him in multiple mocks myself. That doesn't happen. And then Jazar Newton, he winds up going 36 to the Commanders. I know it was a fan favorite for a lot of the Bengals fans, but it probably would have been too much for the Bengals to give up to get that far up. Sweat goes at 38. And then after that, there really wasn't a lot of players that I was like, well, the Bengals might have an interest in that particular person, maybe Brandon Fisk a little bit, but I don't really think they had that much interest. And so as you look at the stuff that came out afterwards, that the Bengals were sweating out this pick because they had the person that they wanted is the person that they're going to pick. Jack Johnson went to the Raiders. I was like, oh, that one's going to hurt a little bit. I thought he might be a choice. Jonathan Brooks goes to the Panthers. I thought that might be a choice too, but maybe not in round two. So a lot of overdrafting, like people with third round grades going in round two. And then the Jaguars picked at 48 and they took Mason Smith, somebody that the Bengals had in that big kind of defensive tackle that they would have wanted. And then they go right before the Bengals. And it's like, man, okay. So then the Bengals get on the clock at pick number 49. And they wind up taking Kris Jenkins, the defensive tackle out of Michigan. He took the 30 visits. He came into town. The Bengals really liked him. They were really excited about being able to get him. He has versatility. He's a captain. Like all of those things that the Bengals value in draft picks, he is that. He's kind of a run stuffer, but just a small one. So he's not the big nose tackle DJ Reader replacement. But here's where the issue is going to come. And Hutch is not on here with me tonight. It's just another player from Michigan. That's basically it. Like if he goes to a different school, has the same measurables, has the same production, all of that, I don't think there would be so much discourse online about the pick, at least from Bengals fans. It's just that he went to the school up north. That's basically it. So he'll come in, he'll rotate. He's really more of a three-tech defensive tackle. So now we have three of them rotating with Sheldon Rankins, BJ Hill, and now Kris Jenkins. And so at some point in time, you're going to need to rotate in a big fat back, as Hutch would call it, a big defensive tackle. And so that's going to come up here in a little bit, but now, I mean, you've added some depth to that tackle room. Finally, you get an offensive tackle in round one with Amarius Mims. So, okay, that's fine. I was cool with this pick. And then as we start to scroll down and we get into round 3, it was like, all right, well, what are the Bengals going to do? What are they looking at? You got a defensive tackle, you got an offensive tackle. Everybody thought this would be a trenches draft, and now you're probably looking for a skill position player. Ben Sinnott goes off the board in round 2. One of the tight ends that they know the Bengals had interest in. It's like, oh, okay, so it won't be a tight end. Any of the other tight ends that they have lower grades than that. And so as the picks start coming through, you're not really sure what the Bengals are going to do. I know me and the Goat Killer were sitting here like, what are the Bengals going to do here? Do you double down? Oh, maybe get like, maybe another center or something like that. But the center winds up going to the Steelers a few picks later, the kid from West Virginia. Like a defensive back? No, not really. Maybe a wide receiver. And so round 3 starts off with Malachi Corley going to the Jets. Bengals had interest in him. And then you go through the rest of these picks, and it's just a bunch of dudes, to be honest with you. Like some of these dudes played in big programs that I'd never heard of them. It seems very overdrafty. And so as we're starting to get closer to the Bengals pick, Cooper Beebe goes to the Cowboys. I know the Bengals had an interest in him as an interior offensive lineman. And so as we're getting closer and closer to the Bengals pick, I'm not really sure what they were going to do. Matt Goncalves, again, another overdraft. He's probably had a 4th or a 5th round grade, goes in round 3 as well. The Bengals, when they get to their pick, they take wide receiver Jermain Burton out of Alabama. Okay, so we have to do this. He has first round talent, but he has probably a 6th round brain. All his measurables, first round talent, 6th round brain. Just an immature kid, And again, in the previous regimes, especially under Marvin Lewis, the Bengals were a home for wayward children. And sometimes it worked out, sometimes it didn't. But they were always willing to give people second, third chances, to try to right themselves through the love of football. Under Zach Taylor, we've really kind of stayed away from dudes like Jermain Burton because he is a little bit troubled. But talent is undeniable. So you take the risk. And that's basically what the Bengals have done is they've taken these high ceiling dudes, where in the past they've always taken high floor dudes. Like, all right, well, at a minimum, he's going to be able to do this, but you're not taking a swing for the fence. At a minimum, like I said, Amarius Mims at a minimum is Jonah Williams. He's just an average NFL tackle. But at a maximum, he's probably an all-pro. His ceiling is all-pro, borderline Hall of Famer based on his measurables. Kris Jenkins is the same thing. He's got NFL pedigree. At a minimum, his floor, he's, Jay Tufele, average defensive tackle that can come in and give you partial snaps. But his athletic profile, is greater than that. And so maybe you hit a home run there. Jermain Burton is the exact that. His floor is probably that he's out of the league because he got into too much shit and he does something and gets himself suspended and he's out. His ceiling, though, is T. Higgins light, but with better speed. Like he's a number 1 wide receiver in terms of talent, but can he rein in his worst impulses and become like a productive NFL player? Especially on a team as a rookie, is he going to get frustrated when he's essentially the 4th option on the offense? Is he going to get frustrated with that? He's been training with TJ Houshmandzadeh in the offseason. Obviously, TJ, Cincinnati Bengals legend. So, like, all of that helps him and probably helps his transition a little bit better. He is not going to be getting up in Joe Burrow's face and screaming at him because that's not going to work, because he's probably going to get hit from behind, more than likely by one of the other wide receivers for doing that dumb shit. It's just not going to work here. This is not going to be that ridiculous Steelers wide receiver. What's his name? Goat Killer? Who? Yeah, he ain't going to be him. That would never fly in Cincinnati. It's just not with Joe Burrow. It's just not going to fly. He'll be sitting on the bench forever at that point. So you might have hit a home run here. If he hits the way that he could hit, you're not really worried about T. Higgins leaving, to be honest with you. Like, it sucks that T is going to leave, but he hits. I mean, he hits so well that if the Bengals traded T. Higgins like after this draft, it wouldn't even surprise me at this point. Like his talent is that good, but he does have a 6th-round brain, so you really got to worry about that. I know a lot of people had him off their draft boards because he's a moron. And again, one of his things he's emotional. He plays on the edge. He's a dog, a DAWG dog. Like, I mean, you with these types of players, you need them, and you got to kind of give them a little bit of grace, without having them step over the edge and stop playing and not blocking and all of those. It's just like all the ridiculously goofy things that Steelers wide receiver does. You can't have that in Cincinnati. So yeah, this is he's great hands, vertical speed. Like he's got it all. So great. For me, a great pickup by the Bengals. Absolutely. And then you get into the other pick in round 3 where they have the supplemental pick at the end of the round. Thanks to the golly. I got forgetting our safety's name that signed with the Falcons off the top of my head here. This is our supplemental pick at 97. And we wind up taking McKinley Jackson, the defensive tackle out of Texas A&M. He is your big nose tackle replacement, for DJ Reader. Now, he's not going to be a replacement for DJ Reader because he's not DJ Reader. There was a wide variety of grades on this dude. And the draft has started. Jatavian Sanders just goes to the Lions with the first pick, or not the Lions. Who is it? Panthers. Sorry, the first pick in the 4th round to the Panthers. That definitely the Bengals probably had some thought on him. He's a low-level athlete, by the way, and that's not what the Bengals are picking this year. So McKinley Jackson, he's got a shot, man. To come in and play some rotational snaps. That's good. That's what they're going to need. The grades on him ranged. When we were taking the mock drafts every freaking week, he'd gone from early in the 3rd, and then Dane Brugler from the Beast at the Athletic had him as a 6th-round pick. The Bengals essentially get him in the 4th round because that's a 4th-round pick at 97. So, can he come in and get some snaps? Again, another 2-year captain, high character dude, doesn't have a great athletic profile because what 330-pound dudes do. But he can come in, give a couple of first down stops on the run in the rotation, and hopefully can, take some of those snaps. I would not be surprised if the Bengals double down on a big defensive tackle in one of these later round picks. There's a kid out of FAU I know they're interested in, and the only reason I know that is because I'm an FAU grad. So I wouldn't surprise me if they take him late in the draft as well. And that's the Bengals, like their 3 picks. I think they're doing a really good job on this. I think the idea of swinging for the fences and trying to get high athletic, high ceiling dudes is better than taking the high floor dudes with low athletic scores. Because if you hit, and it only is going to require that you hit on 1 or 2 of them, you're going to hit like a home run type hit. And so I and other people on this podcast have to get over this hate of the school up north. Now, that hasn't really worked out thus far, and the people that they've drafted from there. The punter sucks. Maybe DJ Turner is a decent cornerback. Dax Hill is – we don't even know what position he plays at this point, for that. So hopefully Kris Jenkins can break that streak. And, we'll see what happens. But, I know a lot of the hate on that pick is primarily just because he went to Michigan. So, all right, y'all. So we'll be back to recap this after picks 4 through 7, and 6 total picks. Maybe the Bengals actually make a trade, go up and get the person that they want with all these extra picks, and we'll see what's happening. So let's talk to you later, everybody. Hoo day. Have a good one.